Okay guys, today I want to deal with a subject matter that seems kind of complex and can sometimes seem kind of intimidating in an audio engineering setting, but when you really break it down, it's actually quite simple and it's actually very important, and understanding this is going to benefit you in both studio and live settings, and that is the concept of signal flow.
At McRae Music.
Okay, how are you guys doing? I am richly blessed. I pray that you are as well. We're going to talk about signal flow. Now, before we get into this, please take a moment and like this video if you don't mind, and feel free to share it with someone else and subscribe, right? So that you know when new videos are coming out and you can get notifications on all of these things. All right, signal flow in its simplest form is the path that our signal takes from a source to our ears. Really simple, right? You're in the studio. You have a singer on a microphone. You need to be able to record that singer in your DAW, and you also need to be able to hear what's going on through your studio monitors or your headphones. The process of that happening is called signal flow, all right? Now, it can seem often really complex, right? Especially in, I won't even say especially, I think equally as complex in both a studio and a live setting. But it can seem really complex, right? And especially if there's a problem going on where something is not being heard, right? You're in a live setting, someone's talking on a microphone, let's say you're doing front of house or whatever, someone's on a microphone and we cannot hear them, right? Or they cannot hear themselves in the monitors. I'm going to give you a very simple way that you can understand signal flow that'll help you both in setting it up and also in troubleshooting. But before I get to that, let's make a note that before you go into any setting, or when you get into any audio engineering setting where something is being captured or something needs to be heard, the first thing that you're going to want to figure out very quickly is what is the signal flow. How is signal getting from the source to the various places where that signal needs to go? So let's take a look at a little diagram here that I think will help us to understand signal flow, and then we'll take a look at it inside of our DAW as well, because this is something that takes place in our DAW also, all right? So let's take a look. I've got a very simple situation here, right? Real simple. I've got a source. This is a singer, right? They look like a singer, right? They got the singer pose going on. They leading worship. They're doing something. I don't know what they're doing, but they're singing. They're performing. And this is in a studio setting, okay? And so I need to capture this performance in my DAW, so it needs to get to my computer, right? I also need to be able to hear it, right? So I got a speaker here, need to hear it in my monitors, right? Or my headphones. Okay. So we know that the tool that we're going to need to use to do this in its very simplest form is going to be an audio interface, right? So here is my audio interface. This is a Focusrite, and let's say this is what we're going to be using to do both those things that I just mentioned. Okay, here is the trick to signal flow. Are you ready? When we think about signal flow, we always approach signal flow as an out to in, right? We think about signal coming out of a thing and then into another thing, right? If you can grasp that, no matter how complex the situation is, it all comes down to what is this signal coming out of and where is it going into? And we're going to start at our source, okay? Whatever the source is, we're going to start there, okay? So here's my source. My source is my singer, okay? Stuff is coming out, or signal flow is coming out of the singer's mouth. What's it coming into? How am I capturing this source? I'm capturing this source, of course, through a microphone, right? So I'm coming out of the singer into the microphone. That is squared away. All right. Now, my signal is going to come out of the microphone into where? In this simple scenario, we're going to come out of the microphone, and then we're going to go into our audio interface, okay? So we are coming at the output of the microphone, and then we're plugging into the input of our audio interface, which in this style of audio interface would be right here. So I'm picking a channel. This one has two inputs, input 1 or 2, plugging it into either of those, all right? Outs to in. So we're going out from our microphone into our audio interface. I need to now get this from my audio interface to my DAW, my computer, and also to my monitors or headphones. So we're going to come actually with a two-way connector, because we're probably connecting this using either, if this with the Focusrite, it's probably USB, it might be Thunderbolt, right? Those types of connectors are two-way, so you don't need one connection for output and one for input. Those types of connections are going to handle outputs and inputs in the one cable, right? So we've got that connection going on, nothing to worry about there. Now, we are going to physically come out of our audio interface and then into our monitor here. And we've got sound, right? So again, what are we doing? We're passing sound. We're thinking of it as out to in. So out of our singer's mouth into the microphone, out of the microphone through our cable into the audio interface's input, out of the audio interface's output, and into our monitor, right? And then we have our two-way connection happening here with our computer, right? So nice and simple, out versus in. So if I'm troubleshooting, if the singer is on the microphone and I cannot hear anything, this is how I can troubleshoot, right? What's it coming out of? What's it coming into? Is it connected right? Are certain things turned on? And we won't get deep into troubleshooting here. We'll do that in a whole other video, because there are other things that we might want to think about, like phantom power and other things like that. We don't need to worry about that right at this moment. But just whenever you're troubleshooting, start with outs versus ins, all right? Let's look at a slightly more complex scenario here. All right. So we have our same singer and we have our same audio interface and we're going into our same DAW and we're coming out of our same monitors, right? But this time, let's say we've got some outboard gear, right? I've got a preamp here, and this is a preamp I actually have in my studio, right? And let's say I also have a compressor. This is a compressor I would like to have in my studio one day. Be such a one to sew this into my life, right? How do I connect this, right? It could look very complex. Uh-oh, right? Well, what's going to happen here? Well, same concept of outs versus ins, right? I want my source to hit my preamp first, because that is what's going to amplify the signal and send it through. Now, my audio interface, you might say, well, Ed, there was no preamp before. Yes, there was. The audio interface has its own preamp. It's just that in this case, we're not going to use the audio interface's preamp. We're going to use this fancy outboard preamp that we have over here that sounds really amazing, actually. Card up in the top if I actually reviewed this exact interface, if you're interested in that. But anyway, same concept, right? Don't be confused or don't get intimidated by the amount of equipment. It's just outs to ins. So same thing. Let's walk it through. I'm coming out of my microphone into my audio interface. And let's say then the next place I want it to go is to my compressor. I'm going to come out of the output of my preamp. I'm sorry, I said audio interface, I meant preamp. I'm coming out of my preamp into my compressor. And then guess what I'm going to do next? I'm coming out of my compressor into my audio interface, right? Nice and simple. Again, the connector types could vary depending on the equipment you're using and all that. We're not worried about that too much right now. We're just understanding the flow of our signal. How is it getting from point A to point B? Is coming out of the microphone. It's hitting the microphone first. It's then hitting the preamp, which is amplifying the signal. It's going into my compressor from there, or out of there into the compressor, out of the compressor into the audio interface, out of the audio interface back and forth between the computer, then out of the audio interface into my monitor or my headphones, right? Nice and easy. All right. Now, this concept works in a DAW too. Let's pull up Logic Pro. And here in Logic Pro, I've got a vocal. Let's listen to the vocal. The only place for me, the place for me. All right, got a vocal. I want to route that vocal to a couple of different places, right? Let's pull up our mixer view. Okay, still outs to ins. Let's say that I've got a bus here. Let's create a bus. Matter of fact, I actually already have a bus right here, bus number 2. Let's call this BV bus. Okay, so let's say I have a bus that I want my vocals here to go into the background vocal bus. Okay, and then just for the sake of this, let's say that I also have a bus that we're going to call vocal mix. And then let's also say that I have a bus over here that we're going to call mix bus. Okay, and then let's say that I've also gotten, I know we're doing a lot here, but I want you to get this. Let's say I've also got a reverb over here. Let's call this reverb. I need to route all of this stuff. Okay, and let's say I've got other tracks in here too, but let's just focus on this, right? Same concept. So we said that we have our vocal. Let's just rename this vocal. So we have our vocal. I want to have this go to the BV bus, and then we'll have it pass several other places. Let's go ahead and turn these on. All right, so outs to in. So here's my input. If I was recording, I'd make sure that this was set to the correct input from my audio interface. I want to have this go out. It's already going out of bus 2. So here's my output. It's going out of bus 2, which is the BV bus, and it's coming in right here. Let's look. The only place for me, the place for me. So we see that that's working. Okay. Let's have our BV bus go to our vocal mix. So I'm going to go out. Here's my output for my BV bus. Bus. And let's actually look at the vocal mix input. Let's actually change that first. And I'm going to go ahead and set this to bus 3. And then my mix bus here, I'm going to set that to bus 4. And then my reverb, I'm going to set this to bus 5. Okay? Whatever number you want. So I'm going to come out of my BV bus into my vocal mix. So now this is traveling out of this into this. It's coming out of this into that. Let's run it. The only place for me, place for. Very good. All right. Now, let's say I also want my reverb to go to my vocal mix. So I'm going to come out of my reverb here. Let's go into the vocal mix. And then I want the vocal mix to go to the mix bus. Let's go out of the vocal mix to the mix bus. All right, and I'm going to add a reverb here real quick. Let's just add in, we'll throw on our lustrous plates here. And then we'll send our vocal to that reverb. Let's just use a quick preset that I like. And I'm going to use a send. Same concept, right? I'm sending out of my send to my reverb. Now, this send is like a parallel output. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and dial that in. Let's play. The only place for me, the place for me. And we see the same exact concept, right? Everything is coming from my vocal out to my BV bus. And as a matter of fact, let's actually, what I really should do is have the BV bus send to the reverb. That's what we should do. So it's coming, my vocal is coming in, out of my vocal channel into my BV bus. The BV bus is sending to the reverb. It's also going directly out to the vocal mix. The reverb is also coming to the vocal mix. And all of this is going from the vocal mix to the mix bus. So if I start muting stuff, we can see where things are being broken. The only place. Right, I mute the mix bus, nothing. For me. Mute the vocal mix, nothing. Right, so everything is output to input, right? Nice and easy. All right, so I hope that that simplifies the signal flow process for you. It can be very complex. We can have all kinds of different outboard gear and need to go out to monitors and go to different parallel buses and all these different kind of things. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is figuring out what's it coming out of and what's it going into, right? So then if we're troubleshooting, we can backtrack and figure out, okay, this is supposed to be coming out of this into that. We can figure out where the signal flow is being broken, and we can figure out how to fix that issue. All right, I hope that helps you. Please feel free to like and comment on this video. Feel free to subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified when new videos are coming out. Get into the comment section. Do you have questions about this? You have questions about other stuff? Do you just want to say, hey, Ed, like what you're doing? Or just, hi, Ed, I want to talk to you. Whatever the case might be, go in the comment section. We can talk, right? It's all good. All right, and I'm going to see you again in another video.